cool heads to prevail, Sophie, because the last thing we want is to find ourselves in the midst of another world war. But let me bring Ditaba Tsotetsi in. He's joining us from Baku in Azerbaijan, following COP29 for us. Ditaba, good afternoon. So this, of course, the funding COP that we are talking about. What are they saying about the money at this stage?
Good afternoon, Sakina. Good afternoon to our listeners. As my editor said, it looks like it's a stalemate here because we have just spoken to our Minister of Fisheries, Forestry and the Environment, Dr. Dion George. He was having a meeting. He was on a high-level meeting yesterday. The meetings are behind closed doors, so media is not allowed. But he didn't want to give us the exact details, what has been discussed or what was discussed last night, but he just said that he is positive that this COP will reach an agreement in terms of funding, because we know that they said this COP29, the focus is on financing. There have been talks from the previous COPs, but they said that this one, it's all about finances. They need to focus on financing, but it looks like there is a stalemate, Sakina. Countries do not want to commit themselves, but remember, they pledged before in previous COPs. So the developing nations on this COP, they were expecting these wealthy nations to say, okay, this is how much we're going to contribute, because even Dion George says developing nations need more than 1.5 trillion US dollars to be able to fight the effects of climate change globally. But on this COP that we are attending now in Azerbaijan, it looks like these countries do not want to commit themselves. And also yesterday, the EU delegation here, they said countries like China, as the biggest polluter, they also need to contribute. Remember, some are saying China is also falls under developing nations, but EU says China, their economy has been booming since the 1990s during the start of these climate change talks. So they are expecting China to also contribute to the effects of climate change globally. So this is what the situation now, Sakina. But so far it looks like there is no agreement, but the minister says he is hopeful that these countries will commit, especially on financing.
Ditaba, thanks so much for that update. Sophie, as we ended, as you can see the clock there, stalemate once again. Do you see this moving anyway? And I want to tie that in with Donald Trump coming in, the new president-elect of the United States. His views on Africa as the next G20 lead will go to the US from South Africa, and of course also this climate conference.
I can tell you, Sakina, I don't know how are they going to finally agree on a text in relation to commitment. They are going to argue, developed countries, that they've already made commitments in previous COP. And two, with America, what is Biden going to say? He can't make commitments. He's left with how many weeks in office?
Literally
and
weeks.
When Donald Trump comes in the second week of January, he's gonna, pull out. That is why I'm saying the world is spinning.
It certainly is. And thanks so much, Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor, and Ditaba Tsotetsi speaking to us there from the climate conference that's COP29 in Baku in Azerbaijan. That's all we have time for, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. It is 1 o'clock and we'll do it again tomorrow. Here's Onde Lambana with your latest news.
Thank you, Sakina, and your team. Top stories at 1. SARS gives update on 2-pot withdrawals and a teenager shot and killed in Cape Town. For SFM News, I'm Ondelambana, and a very good day. The South African Revenue Service says it has successfully processed more than 1.9 million tax directives for pension fund withdrawals under the two-pot retirement system since the 18th of November. It says this amounts to nearly 50 billion rand. SARS says in a statement that close to 170,000 applications have been declined for various reasons. It says they include insufficient funds, wrong tax numbers and system failure at fund management entities. Withdrawals from retirement savings under the new two-part system have resulted in over 6 billion rand in taxes to SARS. The High Court in Pretoria has postponed the main application over the standoff between illegal miners and police at a mine in Stilfontein in the northwest. Civil organization Society for the Protection of Our Constitution approached the court for relief for the unconfirmed number of illegal miners. The National Police spokesperson Atlanta Mate says the miners are not trapped, but they are refusing to come to the surface.
An alternative shaft was made open where more than 500 illegal miners have been able to exit underground, and that these illegal miners are refusing to exit on that particular shaft because they are avoiding arrest. It is possible for them to exit through Margaret because we have seen in the past 2 weeks more than 500 exiting. We have proof that they are not trapped, because if they were trapped, they would have indicated. This is a note that was coming from underground.
The Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Solly Malatsi, says the deadline for the analog to digital switch off may have to be postponed yet again. He updated Parliament's Portfolio Committee on the latest regarding the SABC's digital migration. The deadline for the switch off is set to happen before the end of December this year. Malatsi says this may not be possible.
There will be serious difficulties with, proceeding with the date as it is, as there are thousands of South Africans who are still dependent on analog as their source of access to television services. One of the big dilemmas that we face is with covering the costs of dual elimination, because where we are in right now, there isn't a financial provision for this to happen.
A teenager has been shot and killed and 2 others wounded in Ravensmead in Cape Town this morning. It is suspected that the incident is gang-related. Police spokesperson Novella Potela says reports from the scene indicate the children were on their way to school when the incident occurred.
Deployments have been bolstered in Ravensmead following 2 shooting incidents in the area. Reports indicate that 3 teenagers were shot at by 2 armed men who alighted from a vehicle. A few meters from the one scene, a 55-year-old man was also shot at by the same gunman. Police have since launched a manhunt for the perpetrators of the acts of violence.
Climate finance is a thorny issue at this year's COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan. Environmental activists are calling on developed nations to contribute more than $1.5 trillion or about 20 trillion and required to fight the effects of climate change. They say poorer countries need financial resources to fight the effects. A Filipino activist, Lidi Nakpil, has appealed to governments to ensure that COP29 delivers on promises to make funds available.
This money is not just about the needs and the interests of people from the global south. We are here to reiterate our plea for our governments, both in the north and in the south, to stand up for our rights. Climate action that is about reducing carbon emissions to 0 by 2050 will not succeed unless everyone does it. We will not be able to do it without that climate finance.
Recapping the top story, the South African Revenue Service says it has successfully processed more than 1.9 million tax directives for pension fund withdrawals under the two-pot retirement system since the 18th of November. I am Mondilambana for SAFM News, headlines at 1:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only your brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Buco. What a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Imagine a South Africa where every child born today and tomorrow and the next day and the next had enough love, enough food, enough safety and brain power today and tomorrow and the next day and the next. Together, we will change their future. Join us by visiting
holdmyhand.org.za. That's holdmyhand.org.za.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
And I've been searching for the place where my soul can dance. And when I find that place, I'll know I belong. And when I find that place, I'll know that I am home. Oh, in the indlela esukekaya, and I've been searching for the place where my soul can dance. And when I find that place, I'll know I belong. And when I find that place, oh, I know that I am home. Indlela ebegekhaya, and I've been searching for the place where my soul can dance. And when I find that place, I'll know I belong. And when I find that place, oh, I'll know that I am home. When I see my mama's face, when I feel a warm embrace, yeah, I'll know, yeah. When I see my daddy smile, yeah, yeah, I'll know. Said I'll know that I am home. Said I'll know that I am home. She says I should stay right home. And I know that I am home. And I know that I am home. I know that I am home. Then I know that I am
Spam Lelosi. That is how we kick off the show this afternoon. It's just gone 10 past 1 o'clock. It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, the Radio Awards nominated Best Music Talk Show. Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. Coming through 1 until 3 o'clock this afternoon. We have got a jam-packed show for you today. We've got a jam-packed show for you today, as we often do every single afternoon. We're talking consumer trends, shifting South African alcohol consumption trends. We're going to get some insights into consumer preferences around that. And then we're also looking at the economic impact of business events in South Africa. On the other side of 2 o'clock, because it's Tuesday, we're going to have a health and wellness conversation. And we were looking at osteoporosis in men. It is a silent threat, often overlooked, and 1 in 5 men in South Africa is at risk of developing a fracture due to osteoporosis. So we'll have that conversation with the National Osteoporosis Foundation of South Africa. Hey, they tell me that today is International Men's Day. Beautiful way for us to really just crescendo in what has been a month of honoring men-focused dialogue. So happy International Men's Day to you. I can count them on just my 3 fingers, the ones who work on this show. They're outnumbered by all the females. But nonetheless, today is all about you. Our lines are open on 086 000 2032 and 061 410 4107. That is our WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick pause and we'll come right back.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We are catching up with Andrew Fulton, 80/20 director now, and we're looking at consumer trends and the shifting South African alcohol consumption trends. We're going to find out from Andrew exactly what these looked like. So the proposed excess tax increases and the introduction of a minimum unit price mechanism by South Africa's National Treasury has the potential to actually significantly impact the alcohol market, particularly during peak consumption periods like the festive season that we are heading into. But we want to unpack this and more with 80/20, who often chart all kinds of trends. Good afternoon to you, Andrew. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Bridget. Nice to be on the show.
Thank you so much for the time. Once again, much appreciated. Let's talk about the alcohol consumption trends in South Africa. Have those patterns somehow shifted in recent years? And if so, how so?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly shifted post-COVID. What we've noticed is during COVID, there was a lot of drinking just like in-house. Obviously, people couldn't go out. And what's happened since people have come out of COVID is a lot more women getting into drinking, socializing with alcohol. So that's one of the big changes. And it seems like alcohol's become more of a social event rather than sort of drinking with one friend, one male friend, or perhaps even by yourself. So that's the big one. But the other one we want to look at is Woolies has opened up launched some tinned wines, which I thought was quite an interesting thing to look at. So we just used the data to kind of understand how a company could dig into secondary data to understand their markets and use that to drive revenue.
I mean, very interesting also the sort of lean towards social drinking, right? And I wonder, does this also have an effect or an impact on the rise of non-alcoholic alternatives, or what's driving that? Because there seems to be a push by a lot of the alcohol brands towards attracting the non-alcoholic based market.
Yeah, no, we have noticed that as well. I mean, what's interesting about that is, I mean, obviously non-alcoholic drinks can be sold in supermarkets a lot easier. So you've got the brand there in front of people, they can see it, and it helps build the alcoholic side of the brand as well. There's obviously also concerns around health and excessive drinking. You know, a lot of the ads and the media speaking about how dangerous it is to overconsume. I mean, one of the interesting facts is, 7 out of the top 10 alcohol consuming countries in the world, 7 are African. and South Africa places 8th. So you know, we certainly do consume a lot. But what we've noticed is about 750,000, about 5% of adults say they consume non-alcoholic beer, cider, or gin in any given week. But what fascinated me about that fact was only about 5% of those abstain from alcohol altogether. So it's definitely people kind of mixing their non-alcoholic beer and the non-alcoholic cider in with an alcoholic cider. It's not people that don't consume alcohol at all who are taking a non-alcoholic beverage. Yeah.
I wonder what that says about about drinkers, right? I wonder what it says about drinkers and what it says about their palate, or perhaps the psychology of drinking, whether or not you just want the feel and the endorphins that come and that are associated with drinking, but not necessarily trying to get intoxicated per se on some days.
Well, it certainly seems to suggest that. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, they say they like their wine, but it's an interesting thought. Like, I mean, would you like that wine if it didn't also give you that nice feeling, that little buzz, that kind of relaxation? So, yeah, I mean, it seems like if you want to drink just to quench your thirst, and you don't drink alcohol, you're going to stick with a soft drink or a fizzy drink rather than try a non-alcoholic beer.
Are we also seeing any sort of preferences or trends maybe that are coming out that sort of are influenced by age, gender, and perhaps income levels in South Africa? And what might those be, you know, and how do we interpret that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's really interesting about data, and it's why we get so excited about it, we mined the MAPS data from the MRF. It's a 20,000 sample survey, nationally representative, and we also use some of the YouGov data for this sample. And what I personally love about it is it gives you a view of all of South Africa. You know, it's impossible for me to get my mind into the head of somebody living in a rural area in the Eastern Cape, but with data, I can look at that and understand it better. So if we look at, you know, people who drink overall and the demographics, there'll be some certain skews. So single and divorced people tend to drink more than their married counterparts. Younger generations, so Generation Y, average age 34, they're more likely to drink than the baby boomers, whose average age is about 66. Yeah, and if you look at like specific categories, you know, a cane drinker is around 44 years old, whereas a newer category, alcoholic energy drinks, average age is about 10 years younger than that. So definitely different demographic skews, which retailers need to be aware of when they're marketing these beverages.
And considering that we are in the beginnings of the festive season right now, where there's you know, just heightened competition around the market share when it comes to beverages and alcohol and things of that, social behavior, what do I want to say? Social behavior retail, so to speak, for lack of a better phrase. How does this information then help retailers in order to maximize on that and obviously claim their share of the wallet across the different consumers?
Yeah, I mean, one of the very, very simple and common strategies for retailers to try to just make your basket one extra thing into your basket. So alcohol is fantastic in that way, that you've gone to the shops here at, say, at Woolies, and you've got your meat, you've got your bread, you've got your veggies, and you go buy W Cellar and pick up a six-pack of beer or a bottle of wine. So it's kind of an additional purchase that you might not have thought of. And once again, you know, retailers can be well placed to kind of put those in the right places. And what we noticed also is there's certain sort of activities and interests that appeal to certain drinkers as well that we thought was interesting and funny. You know, so bird watchers are much more keen on craft gin and vodka, whereas people who do book club are sort of spirit coolers, champagne, liquor, and wine. You know, no surprises there. And then gamblers and sports bettors, beer, craft and regular. So once again, how do you tailor your marketing message? How do you maybe do something in store that kind of appeals to those people as they're getting the other products they need to buy in their given shop?
Yeah. You mentioned Woolies, for instance, and I read here that part of what you sort of helped decipher for us is that Woolworths has actually strengthened their alcohol offering, and they've particularly gotten targeted marketing aiming at female consumers.
Yeah, so I mean, half of South African, the alcohol market is strongly weighted towards men. So 60% of the market are alcohol drinkers, particularly beer. But at Woolies, it's about a 50-50 split according to the YouGov data. So obviously, you know, a good idea to capitalize on that. And one of the things I thought was fascinating is these tinned wines that they did. And my wife and I, we really enjoy our wine, and we did a blind taste test and literally couldn't tell the difference between the wine out of a bottle and the wine out of a can. And the can is it's got a fantastic feel. It's got a beautiful logo. Like it really looks like something, you know, when you have to kind of close your mind and think I'm drinking, you know, a can of wine. But it does really look like a higher end product. I was quite impressed with it.
Quite interesting stuff indeed. Talk to us about, and we sort of alluded to it at the beginning, right? There's this proposal for a minimum unit pricing of alcohol, and there's been a deadline that's been set for public comment submission for the 13th of December. National Treasury is deciding to review the price of alcohol per unit, and they're asking the public to comment on alcohol. And you know, will this affect in any way the consumption and sales of alcohol indeed? Because from what I understand, this is different. It's an addition to the syntax that's already in existence.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've been a little bit sick, and when I woke up, I saw that article, and I thought I should probably read this before my interview, and I didn't, I must admit. So I'm a little bit in the dark on all the details, but what we do know from past history is, you know, they put sin taxes. I think, you know, it's often more palatable for a government to put taxes on cigarettes and alcohol because, you know, perhaps less judgment around that than, say, food or water or electricity. So it's an easy target. But absolutely, I mean, with everything in life, you know, people they make choices when they go into the stores. They've got, you know, 400 Rand to spend. If the alcohol has gone up to the point where, you know, other products look more attractive, certainly it's going to affect the sales of that product. And it's an interesting sort of counterintuitive thing where, you know, alcohol does put a lot of money into the treasury. You know, it absolutely does. So you don't want to tax it so high that people stop drinking it, because it's certainly a huge source of revenue. So yeah, that's my kind of. I haven't read the article, and I'm not an expert in that space, but that's my kind of feel about that. You know.
Interesting. By way of just some of the other trends that have come through from the consumer trends of how South Africans are sort of consuming the alcohol. What else did you find of interest? You know, as somebody who's really just got a keen eye in unpacking and analyzing this kind of data for us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the last one was, like I said, you know, my wife and I certainly enjoy our wine, and it was something that 80/20 decided to put a little bit of time and effort into looking at. It is a pretty high-level bit of research. I mean, if we were to do this work for a client, we'd spend many more days and hours working on it. But we looked at the wine category, and there's 5 categories: so boxed, tinned, fortified, bottled, and sparkling. And what we noticed was the boxed wine is younger, leans more towards colored people, and is Gen Y and Z. The tinned wine was divorced, high LSM, high SEM, and young Gen X couples. So you can see why Woolies would focus on it, because it's a higher income wine. Bottled wine is really drunk across all of South Africans. Obviously, our wine in South Africa is a massive industry, 56.5 billion in terms of you know, what it puts into the coffers, and that's, you know, white Indian married and high incomes. And then sparkling wine, once again, you know, typical stereotype, older, white, female, and couples. So you know, some of these things are really kind of what you'd expect, and others, like I must admit, the tinned wine was a surprise for me that it kind of resonates with higher income individuals.
Yeah, I mean, a bit of a surprise, but also maybe not so much if we look at the positioning of. I'm thinking, for instance, Bonang Mathebe, who's one of the biggest celebrities to come out of you know, the country, who resonates with millennials, younger millennials, older millennials, also straddles the sort of Gen Z. And her wine seems to do so well in that, at least the perception of what I see on social media, is people really gravitate towards those 4-pack tins that she's got, you know, beautifully packaged in the little carry case, so you can slip them into your little cooler. You can take them with you wherever you go on the go. And it always seems like the commentary is around the fact that they are convenient, easily transportable. A little 4-pack is all you need, and you can take them anywhere, and they fit the occasion.
Absolutely, and we are a very outdoor society in South Africa, and how easy is it to just, as you said, slip 4 of those into a bag and take them to the beach, or I don't want to encourage illegal activity, but take them out into the outdoors and enjoy them there. But I mean, as I said, do yourself a favor, buy one of these tinned wines. They just holding the can, it's not like holding a Sprite or a Coke. It's beautifully embossed. It feels like a really interesting product. Throw it in the fridge, give it a bit of a chill, and it's ready to consume. And it's also better for the environment. We know that recycling tin is much easier and cheaper than recycling glass, which is actually quite challenging and does cost. There's a lot of energy goes into recycling glass.
Very interesting getting to understand sort of the consumer trends around South Africans' alcohol consumption. Andrew Fulton, thank you so much for the time. He is the director at 8020. And of course, we move on with conversation this afternoon. Still so much to come on the show today. We're going to also be looking at the economic impact of business events in South Africa in this first hour of the show, and stages, pages, screens, and more also coming up just after the headline news. Let's take a pause.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only a brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? Hey. The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Buco. Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Love a good murder mystery? Then Death in Paradise Season 3 will keep you entertained with a series of impossible murders on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Marie. Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with Top Gear Season 25 and 26, Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
Festive season is around the corner. Celarity, hooray! Unlike most, Paul, I don't sweat going home because I have a Nedbank Just Invest account. So I'll be up this festive season. No borrowing, guys. Even you, Mr. Voiceman.
Must be nice to be you, Mabel. Mara, you can also be like Mabel and earn up to 8.5% interest. Open yours via the Money app in under 2 minutes. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply. Visit nedbank.co.za for more info.
SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those living with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those living with disabilities. The Food Circle with Bridget Masinga.
All right, it's just a few moments before 1:30 on the dot, but she's already on the other side. Onde Lambana standing by with the headline news.
Thank you, Bridget. New news headlines. The South African Revenue Service says since the inception of the two-part retirement system on September the 1st, it has observed an unprecedented and steady increase in tax directive applications. Police Minister Senzo Mkhulu says there are links between the so-called construction mafia and other forms of organized crime. He was speaking at a national summit on crime at construction sites in Durban. And new policy-making leadership is needed in the mining sector for the integration of artisanal and small-scale mining. This is according to Professor of Environmental and Sustainability Law at Wits University, Tracy Linfield. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
A.B. Jacobs joins us now, Marketing and Promotions Manager for North Europe at South African Tourism. And we're going to be talking about the Live South Africa campaign for 2024 that's aimed at attracting travellers from the likes of Netherlands, Belgium and Sweden to South Africa. How are you doing, A.B.?
Bridget, very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. Let me get clarity. Is it AB or Abby?
It's Abby.
Abby, there we go. I thought as much. and the culprit is looking at me through the window. Abby, talk to us about the Live South Africa campaign, perhaps the key objectives of this campaign for 2024.
Awesome. So the key objectives for the campaigns and all campaigns we run as SA Tourism is, of course, to grow arrivals to South Africa. And in terms of my focus, it's growing arrivals from the Netherlands, from Belgium, from Sweden, to ultimately then also impact the spend the tourists spend in South Africa. So the campaign is really about inviting the audiences I've mentioned to come and live South Africa through various different experiences, but also highlighted by our core value proposition, which is, of course, our warm and welcoming people.
And how do we sort of how do we get that messaging across with Live South Africa? What are we showcasing by way of the country's diversity, landscapes, and of course all of those incredibly South African selling propositions?
Yeah, so we always align our campaigns with what we know our target audiences want. And specifically for North Europe, safari is the number one reason they come to South Africa, followed by scenic beauty, as well as active adventure, water experiences, and gastronomy. So when we choose how we showcase the destination, those are our key experience pillars, and we make sure we showcase as much of the destination as possible, but linked to the things that we know they like and want. And of course, culture. They want to meet the people. They want to travel like a local. They want to come to South Africa and immerse themselves into the country's culture, etc. So when we,
No, continue.
No, so I was just saying, so when we obviously amplify some of the experiences, we do that knowing exactly what they want and what will obviously make them come back and become repeated visitors and be advocates for the destination to tell their friends and family.
Interesting. You say they, part of their desires and wants is they want to travel like a local. Now I'm wondering, okay, so does that translate into them, fingers up in the air for mahlalisane?
Sometimes, and especially for the younger travelers, I would say your Gen Z and millennial sort of sides of the segments. Obviously, our older travelers want to travel a little more traditionally. But what we do and what this campaign is actually doing is focusing on our tourism experiences, our entrepreneurs that do bring that local experience through. So we've got a lot of community tourism aspects. We've got SMMEs and entrepreneurs, as well as the bigger tourism establishments showcased through this campaign for exactly that reason, to give an authentic picture of what traveling like a local would look like.
Absolutely. We love a campaign that promotes local businesses, right? Because the tourism sector very much is fueled by sort of the groundswell business, the local moms and pops, that interaction with local community. And so Live South Africa, from what I understand, does exactly that with this, is that it highlights those local businesses and those local SMMEs.
So exactly. One of the core things, just to go back to what I mentioned about insights, one of the core things we like to do is align insights from what our segments want with who we are authentically as South Africa. And sustainability has been quite a growing trend out of the North Europe hub or, region. And people is a very big part of what sustainability is and traveling sustainably is. And so what we do is we highlight responsible tourism. And in responsible tourism, we found that the insight is values and values alignment. So what we want to always bring across is what South African values are. Values of people and values of Ubuntu and values of sharing and being welcoming. And we actually focus on bringing those personality aspects through. And so with the South African campaign, the Live South Africa campaign aspect that we've now launched, it was showing South Africa through the lens of a local, But then we've also then created a literal lens in terms of a camera that we built and took pictures and video narratives of different areas in and around South Africa for that purpose.
Oh, wonderful. Now, when you speak about value alignment, right, it also sort of ties into the fact that we as South Africans are part of this marketing campaign and marketing drive indirectly as ambassadors and first point of contact. And I often wonder if, our sort of engagement, particularly on social media, given the reach of social media, you're typing from Johannesburg, you're talking to somebody in Belgium that you've never met, or they follow you and they've taken a keen interest to your account, and inevitably they get a glimpse of your world and your country. How much do we assist or perhaps hamper the efforts of teams like yourselves at South African Tourism when we don't necessarily put the best foot forward every day on Twitter of who we are as South Africans?
So that's a very interesting question. And like I mentioned, Bridget, it is about authenticity always. And when we show up authentically, it's the good and the bad. Because we know that at the crux of it, no matter how we show up on Twitter or how we show up in terms of the press, there's always a good story to tell. And there's always a better narrative to put forward. And that's why we're bringing the real faces behind the tourism opportunity into our campaigns, so that we bring a glimpse of the South African personality through various different ways. We know that when our travelers go back home, we see it from our brand tracker studies. We obviously, as SA Tourism, invest highly in research. And so through our brand tracker studies, welcoming people always comes back as a core reason for people loving South Africa and connecting with South Africa. And so all we really have to do, it actually makes our lives so easy and our job so easy, because all we really have to do is amplify all of the good that there is. And there's so much good that we can find and showcase through our tourism businesses, through our locals, through various different levers. 2 years ago, in 2022, we had a Live Again campaign, which then has, automatically translated into Live South Africa. And that particular localization for North Europe was actually creating what we called lekker local tips, of course, because of the language lever for the Dutch and South Africans, because lekker is a word in the Netherlands as well. And we actually created a tips map where we invited South Africans to come and give their favorite travel tips in terms of traveling domestically and etc. And that tips map still lives on till now, and we link it as a conversion tool for every campaign we run.
Wonderful.
The insight hasn't changed, yeah.
Wonderful. We love to hear it. Okay, so we're not doing that much damage. From time to time, we can be quite helpful as well. Wonderful stuff. I mean, as we wrap it up, Live South Africa seems like it's definitely set to achieve the objectives for South African tourism. And I guess that maybe let's talk just briefly about the kind of impact that you're hoping that, the 2024 edition is going to have, particularly as well with the South Africam that you've now used as part of this campaign.
Yeah. So I think the exciting thing, of course, as I mentioned, we would like to continue to grow our arrivals from the region. But the very, very exciting thing in terms of this South Africam and taking place tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, is actually bringing these portraits to life and creating a live photo exhibition in a South African restaurant in Amsterdam called Braai. Of course it is. And it's open to the locals, and it's open to obviously people living in and around Amsterdam to come and actually look at the photo exhibition and the live portraits that will be displaying in the restaurant, and then of course to enjoy some great South African food and bringing a little bit of our warm South African hospitality into the city center of Amsterdam. So that's a very exciting thing. But of course it is about engaging consumer audiences engaging audiences that know about South Africa and just need that extra bit of push to want to come and visit and, of course, want to come and live South Africa.
Absolutely. Abby Jacobs, thank you so much for the time. Marketing and Promotions Manager for North Europe at South African Tourism. Of course, unpacking for us all the exciting stuff around that campaign, Live South Africa. It's just gone 20 to 2 o'clock. We're going to take a quick pause here and then we come back and we get into Stages Pages.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I mean, a year ago, we would not be speaking about the MK. Well, they didn't exist. But even as late as about 2 months before the election, it's like, these guys are just noisemakers, right? They're not noisemakers anymore, aren't they?
No, absolutely not. And in fact, I've heard too many times since the election that the MK is just another Cope or another Gang. And those are just categorically untrue things. Just in terms of numbers, the MK has outperformed both of those parties extraordinarily. In terms of organizational plan, but the biggest thing that they have over Cope, and if you remember the Cope days well, Cope never actually had a deeply ideological message. Its entire premise was that it was a better ANC. And so it was going to embrace all of the things the ANC embraced, but it was just going to have better people.
Just a dooms.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. All podcasts can be downloaded on safm.co.za. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM. Stages, pages, screens, and more on the Full Circle.
Let's get into the world of theatre. We're looking at a South African fatherhood-based production. It examines fatherhood through groundbreaking dance theatre work, and this is a newly created piece of work. We are catching up now with head of the Windybrow Arts Centre, Gerard Best, joining us now. How are you doing this afternoon, Gerard?
I'm doing well, thank you, Bridget, and thank you for this wonderful invitation to speak to this production.
We appreciate the time. Father and I, and this is set to be an intimate piece, a rhythmic piece as well, brought to life through a powerful fusion of dance, song, and personal narrative. Tell us more about this newly created dance work.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's percolating, it's in creation, it's in rehearsal, and it's a wonderful collaboration between the Kwasha Theatre Company and the Market Theatre and moving into dance. So it's bringing professional dancers, young professional actors together to talk about fatherhood, to talk about their own stories of their relationships with their own fathers, and this will be done, as you say, through song, dance, and personal testimony. So very exciting. And I watched a run-through on Friday last week, and a beautiful production is emerging, very emotional, very touching, striking, beautiful music, some fantastic choreography, and text that will really take you deep inside your own experience of what it is to be a father and your own relationship with your father. Yeah.
Let's touch on some of the themes that are explored through this piece, Father and I, because I think also the timing of it is quite ripe, given, I think, the sort of eagerness now for South African men particularly to examine their own being, sort of, and examine their own understanding of what fatherhood is, what manhood is, and all these sort of worldly and social themes that come with identity.
Well, I think Greg has been very careful to not bash fathers or men, although we know that fatherlessness affects 60% of South African children. So it is a huge social issue. And I think one of the beautiful things in the production is acknowledging women and mothers. So although it is a production on fathers, there's a strong acknowledgement that mothers play multiple roles. But yeah, so it's a balanced and honest narrative, and brings a range of narratives, both sometimes sad, sometimes angry, but sometimes quite celebratory. So yeah, I think every story will resonate into the audience and will touch people in different ways, and will make them reflect on their own journey and relationships.
Talk to us a little bit also about sort of the process of putting together, the process of writing this particular production, because from what I understand, it is a collaboration of real life stories.
Yes, so Greg started working with the Kwasha Theatre Company, which is 5 young professionals who've just graduated from drama schools across the country. And they spend a year with us at the Market Theatre Foundation at Windy Brow and the Market Theatre. And it really is a soft landing for them into a career choice, which is not always easy. So Greg started working with them and started excavating themes that they may want to start to explore for an end-of-year production. And after some back and forth, it was decided to look at fatherhood as a theme. And so Greg interviewed each of the members and then transcribed those interviews, and then worked with each actor to start to construct a monologue. And then moving into dance came into the process, and Greg did the same with the dancers. And so, these are the actual words, stories of the performers. And those are presented in dance, in text, and in song. So a real range of forms to bring these stories alive.
Wonderful. And I think it's also great to sort of see a new dance piece, come into the theatre space, because one of the things that's been so sorely missed, especially in Johannesburg, has been just the vibrancy of dance productions.
We miss Dance Umbrella, and I absolutely agree. And it's interesting, the birth of this collaboration with Moving Into Dance happened at the Jomba Dance Festival, which was at the Market Theatre a good 2 months ago, I think, and it was Greg meeting Sunny Boy, who's the artistic director of Moving Into Dance, and a foyer conversation led to this wonderful collaboration. So, it was a dance festival that birthed this relationship, and may it continue.
Just a quick recap, Jared, on the details, the pertinent details around when the production opens, and of course where we can get tickets.
Well, all the information's on the Market Theatre Foundation's website, but we open on the 28th of November. It's a very short run. our final performance is on the 1st of December. On the 1st of December, we've organized a post-performance discussion, conversation. So we've invited the Alex Arts Academy's award-winning production, Fatherhood, which was performed at the Market Theatre a couple of months ago and was the winning production of the Zwakala Festival. So we've invited them to join the Father and I cast on the stage and to have a conversation around the many themes, as you say, masculinity, fatherhood, what it is to be a father. So that will be an exciting, and there's a special price for that performance. So if you're wanting to both watch the work and then engage a conversation, December the 1st is that time to come. But yeah, booking through web tickets, all the information's on the website, and please join us.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It sounds like a great night out, but also a night that will definitely spark a sense of introspection and conversation, perhaps on the drive back home, around some of the many themes that we've discussed here today. Thank you so much for the time. That was Gerard Bester, head of the Windybrow Arts Centre. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. We're going to take a quick pause and then we're going to come back and touch base on another short conversation.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The SAFM Playwriting Competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 3rd of February 2025 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
All right, we are switching gears just a little bit today. So today is actually also World Toilet Day, that's observed annually on the 19th of November, and it highlights the global sanitation crisis with the aim, of course, of achieving safe toilets for all by 2030. Now, we know that in South Africa, we still have a problem of trying to eradicate pit toilets, particularly in our public schools. And obviously, all these years later, 30 years into democracy, despite promises to eliminate these unsafe facilities, over 3,900 schools still rely on them every single day. And we thought we'll catch up with Almeen Claessens, a lecturer in the Department of Social Work and Criminology at the University of Pretoria, to explore this conversation. How are you doing this afternoon, Almeen?
I'm doing so well, thank you, Bridget.
Thank you for the time.
That's the biggest pleasure.
Let's get into it. Pit toilets, and it's something that we still experience at least some of our communities experience every single day. A year doesn't go by where we don't have some kind of incident that's associated with pit toilets in our schools. I mean, why does this continue to be a problem in democratic South Africa? Why is this not a priority to eradicate these toilets?
I think, Bridget, that was exactly my question as well, because already in 2013, the Department of Education actually banned pit toilets from schools, and they set out a date for the 2016 year. By that time, it would have been fixed. Then we went on to 2020. in COVID, then we went on to 2023, and I'm asking, how long are we still going to make promises and not actually address the issue? Because currently our minister is saying 2025, and at this pace, 3,900 pit toilets will not be eradicated by 2025. We need action. We really do.
Absolutely, because what is being cited here as the challenge, in getting the job done?
That's a very good question because, we've got good policies, we've got good initiatives from the Department of Education side. I do believe we probably have some budget provisions made for it, but I do think the issue is bigger than only one department trying to fix it. So we really need to actually have more collaboration and partnerships beyond only the Department of Education. And that's what I'm actually suggesting as a possible solution, to say we need to all make it our business. It's not just going to happen through Department of Education.
And speaking about that sort of collaboration with the various stakeholders, right? So the role of community engagement and the role of student initiatives, for instance, in conversations like this. I know that some universities are leading with initiatives like the Blue Drop.
Yes. So it's actually interesting, Bridget. One of our students, a social work student, in 2020, she had to do a community engagement project in a school. And she was situated in the Shambok Primary School in Erasmus, just outside Pretoria. And she identified the lack of access to safe drinking water and to actually hygiene in terms of just washing of hands after using a pit toilet. So in her effort, she couldn't fix the toilet problem at that stage because the project was just limited in size. But at least she actually had a whole system with buckets in front of every classroom where children could wash hands. And then the water that dropped was actually caught up in another container, and then they watered the garden of the school. So the water was actually recycled. But it's interesting because people always ask me, what does social work have got to do with sanitation and toilets? But it's got everything to do with it. I mean, the fact that children's dignity is being put in at the back row by actually allowing them to use these pit toilets. We have to do everything to actually restore children's dignity and their right to education as well.
Absolutely. An innovative idea to a pressing situation in South Africa, and we can use all the innovation that we can get. Tell us a little bit about, just maybe in closing, perhaps some things that we should consider by way of a public-private partnership in this conversation.
Yeah, I think there's big opportunities for corporate, for civil society, for communities to actually take hands and say, perhaps a corporate can sponsor a couple of toilets. There's an amazing public benefit organization, Breadline, that had an initiative, their Flush Challenge, which was a campaign where they single-handedly put 4,000 flush toilets into schools in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, that's the kind of things that we need to see. More corporates coming on board. Even if a corporate can adopt one school and help to address the issue in one school, then that one school is at least safe, and we can actually ensure dignity for our children in the schools.
Absolutely. Elmine Claessens, we appreciate you, and we appreciate practical solutions being put at the table. Elmine is the lecturer there in the Department of Social Work and Criminology at the University of Pretoria. They're fast becoming one of my favorite universities, I tell you, because, the kind of work and innovation that they're putting forward there on that campus always just takes our minds away, or takes our breath away on the show. It's 2 o'clock. On Delambana is standing by with the news. Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 2 suspects killed in a shootout with police in KZN, and SARS gives update on 2-pot withdrawals. For SAFM News, I am Monde Lambana, and a very good afternoon. 2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Mbangeni on KwaZulu-Natal North Coast. In a statement, police say they spotted a white bakkie in a sugarcane field during a routine patrol. When police approached the vehicle, 2 suspects started firing shots and officers retaliated. 2 firearms and several rounds of ammunition were also found in the suspects' possession. Police have confirmed that the suspects had warrant of arrest issued against them in connection with cases of murder. The South African Revenue Service says since the inception of the 2-pot retirement system on September the 1st, it has observed an unprecedented and steady increase in tax directive applications. It says this is likely to be a reflection of the economy challenges that households are facing. SARS says it has successfully processed more than 1.9 million tax directives for pension fund withdrawals under the system since yesterday. This amounts to nearly 50 billion rand. SARS says withdrawals from retirement savings have resulted in over 6 billion rand in taxes. New policy-making leadership is needed in the mining sector for the integration of artisanal and small-scale mining. This is according to Professor of Environmental and Sustainability Law at Wits University, Tracy Linfield. She says formalization of the artisanal mining sector is pivotal to combating poverty in the country.
The problem is that you have a gold mining industry that's essentially dying on the Witwatersrand. Of more than a century's worth of mining. You have a mine void with thousands of tunnels. You have mine residues, and there's still remnants of gold in that resource. You have a situation of local, national, and regional structural poverty, and you have a market that wants this gold. At the moment, to be an artisanal miner, there's only an option to be an illegal artisanal miner. Some kind of formalization is really necessary. And we need a new leadership, the kind of leadership we've seen in the electricity sector.
Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says there are links between the so-called construction mafia and other forms of organized crime. He was speaking at a national summit on crime at construction sites in Durban. The summit has heard that the problem began in KwaZulu-Natal and has spread to Gauteng, the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. It takes the form of site invasions, intimidating contractors on site and extorting protection money. Mkhulu has encouraged contractors to report these crimes. President Cyril Ramaphosa has revealed that nearly 700 million people are living in poverty, with more than 60% of those living in sub-Saharan Africa countries being affected. Speaking at the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, Ramaphosa also emphasized that many of the affected countries are grappling with the severe impacts of climate change.
According to the World Bank, nearly 700 million people are currently living in extreme poverty. This is unacceptable. Sub-Saharan Africa accounts for 67% of these people. At the same time, countries with developing economies are faced with declining economic growth prospects, declining investments, rising debts, and are also suffering from the degradation of climate change.
Recapping the top story, 2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police at Mbangeni on the KwaZulu-Natal North Coast. In a statement, police say they spotted a white bakkie at a sugarcane field during a routine patrol. I am Monde Lambana for SAFM News, headlines at 2:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Did you know the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, also known as PRASA, is making strides in restoring passenger rail services affected by infrastructure damage and cable theft? 31 out of 40 priority rail lines are now fully operational, with 266 stations up and running nationwide. The Gibela Train Factory has manufactured 246 trains, and half of these are already being utilized by PRASA, which has completed 35 million passenger trips across different regions to date.
This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
69 million rand in total estimated Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots could turn this Tuesday into a day to remember. So don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 65 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 4 million rand today by simply buying your tickets now in store or via the nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or you can simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda Pusher Play, and players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Solo kuhamba
right, so Naima K coming through featuring Robbie Malinga on this one with Sokwenza Njani is the name of the song. Someone actually just asked me on WhatsApp, what is the name of the song, please? So it is Sokwenza Njani, Naima K featuring Robbie Malinga. And as it was playing, and my team typed out, because they got to choose the 2 o'clock song, and they typed out Naima K. I was like, wait, are you sure? Because isn't this Kelly Kumalo and Robbie Malinga? So there's 2 versions of the song. There's a Kelly Kumalo and Robbie Malinga song, which a lot of people know it was recorded before the late Robbie Malinga passed away. And then there is the Naomi K featuring Robbie Malinga song. I want to hear them back to back, though, because I actually want to hear the debate in studios whether or not there's been a slight alteration of the lyrics, or it's the exact same lyrics, or it's a similar theme of song speaking to a similar narrative, but with the slight change in lyrics. The melody and the production is completely the same, though. So it would be interesting to just sort of listen to them in contrast and hear which is which. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock. On the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM. We're catching up now with Teresa Hoch, who is the Chief Executive Officer at the National Osteoporosis Foundation of South Africa. And we're going to be getting a better understanding around what is osteoporosis, who is at risk, and of course, why is it now a silent threat or a rising silent threat among South African men, with 1 in 5 men in South Africa at risk of developing, some kind of fracture due to osteoporosis. It's Tuesday after 2 o'clock, so we take a health and wellness focus on the other side of 2. How are you doing this afternoon, Teresa? How are you today? You good?
Thank you so much, Bridget.
Thank you for making the time. We appreciate it. Maybe let's just start at the very beginning and let's get an understanding around exactly what is osteoporosis.
Okay, so bone is a living tissue and it's continuously being broken down. The old bone is being broken down and it's replaced by new bone. Osteoporosis occurs when the creation of the new bone cannot keep up with the speed of which it is broken down. So this leads to weakened bones and obviously a greater susceptibility of fracture. So it's both the quantity as well as the quality of the bone that is impaired, and that causes fractures in the long run.
Oh, I mean, just there you floored me already, because for some reason I know we grow, and obviously as you grow, your bones grow, but I never just made the connection around bone being a living tissue, like a living organism, so to speak.
Absolutely. It dies the day you die. So it's constantly being broken down and being built. So yes, the day you die, your bones die as well.
Wow, very interesting. All right. Now, talk to us about why osteoporosis is often referred to as a silent disease.
Okay, so you can't feel your bones becoming thinner. It's almost like having a high cholesterol and you can't feel that. And the first sign of that is usually a heart attack. And this is the same holds true for osteoporosis. You can't feel your bones becoming thinner. And the first sign is often a fracture of the bone. And and then people start looking at your bones, because no one really looks after their bones, because it's, as I said, you can't feel it becoming thinner. So that is why it's called the silent disease. But there are things, obviously, that you can look out for. If you have had acute back pain that doesn't go away, or there's a loss of height of more than 3 centimeters since your 40s, if you frequently fall, and this is specifically our older population, they frequently fall. If you've noticed that you've become stooped over, and we call it the dowager's hump, so you've got a little humpback, that probably means that you've already fractured some of your vertebrae. And obviously, if you break easily after minimal trauma, and we usually say, if you fall from less than a standing height and you break something, it's probably due to osteoporosis, because that's a fragility fracture. after minimal trauma, and 99% of the time you have osteoporosis if that happens.
I was actually going to say if whether or not every fracture that we get is an indication that you have osteoporosis. You know, if you fall from a desk and you have a slight fracture, would that then be a sign that perhaps your bones are a little less dense?
Yeah, probably yes. Not if you're jumping from a wall or falling from the roof of your house. That's probably considered major trauma and you break something there. But minimal trauma, if you just bump your foot and a bone breaks, or you just fall on an outstretched hand, and this specifically happens in women after the age of 60, where you still have your reflexes intact, you fall on your forearm and you get a Colles fracture or a forearm fracture. That's all minimal trauma. So most of those fractures are due to osteoporosis.
And tell me this then, Teresa, by way of risk factors, are there sort of high risk individuals or main risk factors for osteoporosis, both male and female?
Yes, I think the risk factors across the board remains the same. So one of the biggest, I think, culprits in developing osteoporosis is chronic cortisone or steroid use.
All right.
Most of our other chronic diseases like diabetes or HIV, all those chronic diseases can in the end lead to osteoporosis by virtue of the disease process itself or by using the medication to treat that disease. Malabsorption diseases, where you don't, where you have a gut problem or where you have a malignancy. And nowadays you get these GLP-1 inhibitors where people lose weight. So all those malabsorption things where you can't absorb calcium or vitamin D or your other nutrients that's necessary for bone formation. That is also your malabsorption diseases. Our teenagers, and we're seeing this more and more in our male teenagers, they suffer from eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia. And it was used to think it's only girls that do this, but we're seeing it more and more in boys. Now, obviously, genetics play a big part. So if someone close to you, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, aunts, uncles have broken bones after minimal trauma, you probably have a gene that will predispose you to that. There are so many diseases, and the other culprits is obviously smoking is bad for your bones in men and women because it suppresses the sex hormones. In women, the estrogen, and in men, the testosterone. And both those hormones are needed for bone protection. So you suppress them when you smoke. We live in a country where alcohol is really a problem, or alcohol abuse. So too much alcohol is also bad for your bones. Our kids sit in front of their tablets, in front of their cell phones. We sit in our offices from 9 to 5, and we really lead more sedentary lifestyles, which is bad for you because you need exercise to physiologically stimulate bone formation. Yes, so diet, exercise, extremely important. Calcium, a diet rich in calcium, very important across all the ages, whether you have osteoporosis, whether you're trying to prevent it, whether you're just trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So diet, exercise, and we're talking about weight-bearing exercise. So you don't have to run a marathon. You just have to walk regularly at a brisk pace.
Yeah.
And you've got to combine that with muscle strengthening exercises to keep your core nice and safe. Stop smoking and limit alcohol intake. Those are the things, and I think that holds true for most chronic diseases too. So it's not a new or novel thing. Just lead a healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. We're going to come back and continue our conversation on the other side. And funny, last week we were having a chat with a professor around some of the work he's done around sedentary lifestyles. I'm still getting a grip with that particular word. And we've learned now to balance our sitting with our walking and our standing in this team. So this is your reminder, if you're listening to the show, if you've been sitting for a while, that it's probably time for you to get up, and I'll probably remind myself to do the same thing after the break. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back and we'll continue our conversation.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
69 million rands in total at the estimated Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots. And this could turn your Tuesday into a day to remember. So don't delay. Go play the Powerball for an estimated 65 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 4 million rand today. And you can buy your tickets now in store via the nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or you can simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusher, Play and Plays must be 18 years or older, and remember to play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
So as my guest Teresa reminded me of, the importance of sedentary awareness, I am now standing for the remainder of the show. I did promise the prof as well last week that, I shall try and jazz it up just a little bit. Let's talk, as we continue our conversation around osteoporosis, let's talk a little bit as well about, and I'm going to try and get my tongue to go the right way with this pronunciation. I could get it completely wrong. The difference between osteoporosis and osteopenia, I think it is.
It's osteopenia.
Osteopenia.
So osteopenia. If you hear something with penia after it, like sarcopenia means too little muscle.
Okay.
Osteopenia means too little bone, but it's usually the phase before you reach osteoporosis.
Oh.
Having said that, we also know that many, up to 60-70% of fractures occur in the range before osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is still a work, I think the definition in progress on how you diagnose it on certain things, but osteopenia basically means too little bone, and that you have lost some bone, but you're not into the osteoporosis range yet.
Okay. Now, whilst you are still at osteopenia, is there a way to are you able to reverse the sort of risk element of it, maybe by changing one's lifestyle, supplementing things here or there?
It's always, that is something many of our patients also ask. Can you reverse osteoporosis? And unfortunately, you cannot reverse it because you have until about the age of 25 to 30 to build the maximum amount of bone that you're ever going to have.
Oh.
And this is called peak bone mass. And after the age of 30, everyone starts losing a little bone. That's a normal process. That is just life. This is normal. So the more bone you have, by the time you'll reach your peak bone mass, so the more bone you have in what I call your bone bank, the more you have to lose. And obviously that's the better option. And yes, you need, I mean, in our teenage years, if you think between the age of 13 and 17, about 60 to 70% of your peak bone density is formed. So those are the ages that you really start, or that you really need to up looking after your bones, doing the exercise thing, following the healthy diet rich in calcium and vitamin D. So yes, you can prevent, or you can put as much bone into your bone bank as possible. Once you've lost, due to osteoporosis or to other risk factors, you've lost a sufficient amount of bone to become into the osteoporosis range, or have had an osteoporotic fracture, we have effective treatment. And with effective treatment, I call it a bone, you target the bone, it's a bone-specific drug that goes to the bone and makes your remaining bone, the quality, it improves the quality. And with therapy, you can prevent up to 60% of fractures, of future fractures. So yes, you can try and prevent. You can put as much bone into your bone bank. And as I said just now, your lifestyle, the calcium, vitamin D, weight-bearing exercise, stop smoking, limit your alcohol, that makes out a part of your total lifelong prevention and looking after your bones. So it's part of prevention, but it's also part of therapy. And if you have osteoporosis, as I said, we have all the drugs available in this country. Sad thing is it's not affordable for everyone, and not everyone is on a medical aid, and even our provincial hospitals don't provide the necessary bone active drugs that many people need. We do have them, but we're really struggling to get osteoporosis recognized sufficiently as the important and serious disease that it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's been quite the illuminating conversation, you know, as you're talking. My mom, who's now well in her mid-60s, she's been preaching probably since she turned 50 around how an old person's bones me, and an old person's bones don't heal. So she's always been alert to anything that puts her in the dangers of fracturing her bones or anything like that, because she's like, old people bones don't heal. And now I guess there's kind of some truth to what she's been saying.
Absolutely right. If you don't look after your bones properly with a diet and with your exercise, they're probably not going to heal that sufficiently if you have osteoporosis, because you can think about a Swiss cheese. Osteoporotic bone looks like a Swiss cheese with huge holes in it. And the quality of that bone is poor. And normal bone looks like a nice, dense cheddar cheese, or that is what it should look like. So your mom is quite right. So old people's bones, or older people, and I don't like to talk about old people because I'm in that category as well. So we're not old, we're just senior.
Yes.
We're just wise.
Absolutely. Teresa, thank you so much for the time today, and obviously for all the the knowledge around osteoporosis. It's really been an enlightening conversation for myself, and I'm sure my listeners have also thoroughly enjoyed it and walked away with more than they knew. That was Teresa Hulch, who is the Chief Executive Officer at the National Osteoporosis Foundation of South Africa. It's gone 2:30. Yes, if you're watching us streaming, I am now standing, and I shall remain standing for the next 30 minutes of the show.
Thank you, Bridget. In your news headlines, 2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Mbangeni on the KwaZulu-Natal North Coast. In a statement, police say they spotted a white bakkie in a sugarcane field during a routine patrol. Members of Operation Dudula and angry Soweto residents are continuing to block foreign nationals from registering their spaza shops. They claim that the foreign nationals are stealing business from locals. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says that Russia must be pushed towards a just peace as his country marks 1,000 days since the start of Moscow's full-scale invasion. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hi guys, my name is Kate and today I'm going to be talking about my experiences in exams. So the biggest distractions that I face while studying are social media and just like the noise around me. Like I procrastinate, so a lot of the things that's like around me I like get distracted, and even things that like I wasn't interested in before, like I'll start paying attention to them and like it's just hectic. I try to study in places that are more quiet and places that like I don't have a lot of my things around. So I like study in the living room, or I'll go out somewhere like to go study there. And yeah, so I have one trick that I will live by forever when studying, and that is to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because even just one notification can like sidetrack you so bad, and it's hectic. So put your phone on Do Not Disturb. It will change everything. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Hello, my name is King David Igena Eze, and I'm 10 years old. The biggest distractions I face when I'm studying is thinking of my devices. I just want to grab them, play some games, watch some YouTube videos how to make paper aeroplanes. I'm just into my device. The way I try to ignore them is just by thinking, after studying I can have the whole day of using my devices. I have tricks and routines that I use, but let me just talk about the tricks because my routines they're not really helpful. The trick I use is by writing what I studied down, writing the question by not looking at the answer so that I won't cheat. After that, I'll check if I'm correct, and if I'm not correct, I study it more and then do for the last time. And if I still don't get it correct, I just repeat. The way I can keep myself distracted from using my devices is just by thinking of the first reason, which is remembering that after studying and passing well, I have the devices all to myself. The advice I'll give to a friend when studying and he's always getting distracted is that he should not study in a noisy place. Just study in a free, quiet place that is soothing, where nothing can distract him. Like possibly nothing can distract him. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shamin. I am 11 years old. The biggest distractions that I face during I study is my sister or my brother will come and make noise, screaming. Oh, I try to ignore them by chasing them away or closing my door. Yes, I have tricks. Sometimes I ask my mother to guide me so that I won't get distracted to anything. I must stay focused. And my mother or my aunt will usually stay watching me, what am I doing and what I'm doing each and every time when I'm studying or when we're writing tests, exams. I usually don't play games, but my phone I will switch it off or my mother will take it. Every time she will ask if we're writing exams and then she'll take my phone. When we're done, she will give me back. I give an advice to my friends, like I will say, let's go and study, and today we'll study. We must all pass. I'm giving him courage so that she will also pass and get good marks.
Hi everyone, my name is Yolanda Mzoba. I am 11 years old. The biggest distractions I face while studying, and I try to ignore them, when my little sister comes and disturbs me while I'm studying and says something or hit me or play music, which is not nice because it might make me forget something though, because I did not study well while my sister was disturbing me. I have tricks to help me study for my exam and focus. It's I go to my room or go to the room and study alone while I'm alone and tell everyone to not come in because I'm studying. While I'm studying, I keep myself not distracted by phone games or other fun things. ask my mother to take my phone and I tell her to not give me back. Even though I ask her back here, she must not give me back. The advice I'll give my friend who gets easily distracted during study time, I'll tell her to go to her room or go somewhere she feels comfortable alone, and she must study very hard. There must be no one, because they might get distracted and that might cause you to be a failure, which is not right. Thank you.
Buddy, my name is Karabo Malevo. One of the biggest distractions I face while studying is social media, because we tend to look at our phones and say, oh, maybe just a small little break. Or another thing that distracts me is my bed, because sometimes you just feel exhausted when studying and you're just like, the bed is calling me, let me just go lay on it. I do have tricks that keep me from, or routines that keep me from struggling with focusing on my studies, which is me not really paying attention to my bed, and I just listen to music that just keeps me energized and focused, because I feel like I study better when I'm listening to music. I keep myself distracted from being on my phone or games or any other fun things when I study by listening to music, as I said, or I just try push myself and tell myself that what, a few minutes left of studying and I'll be done. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.
Hello friends and happy Tuesday. As you know, this is a crucial time for you to demonstrate all that you've learned. However, it can be challenging to concentrate with distractions all around. These distractions can hinder your studying and prevent you from performing at your best. Today, let's explore some strategies to manage those distractions so that you can maintain your focus and excel during your exams. Frequent distractions are noise from the TV, family, or friends. To minimize this, consider studying in a quiet location such as a room or a library. If a peaceful spot isn't available, try using earplugs or headphones to draw out the noise. A serene environment can significantly enhance your concentration. Another common distraction is your phone or tablet. Social media, games, and notification can easily consume your time. To tackle this, set your devices aside or turn them off while you study. You might also set a timer to check your phone only after completing a study session, helping you stay focused on your materials. Sometimes your own thoughts can be distracting. We may find ourselves thinking about unrelated matters. When this occurs, take a deep breath and remind yourself of your objectives. Jot down what you need to study and stick to your plan to keep yourself on track. Taking short breaks is another effective way to manage distractions. Studying for long periods without a break can lead to mental fatigue and decreased focus. After every 30 to 45 minutes of studying, take a 5 to 10 minute break to stretch, hydrate, or take a brief walk. Talk to your parents, teachers, or friends about what's distracting you. They can offer advice or assist in creating a better study environment. Remember, it's perfectly fine to seek support when you need it. Lastly, have faith in yourself and stay motivated. Think about how rewarding it will be to perform well in your exams. Hard work truly pays off, so keep pushing through even when it gets tough. By managing distractions and maintaining your focus, you can give your best effort and achieve great results.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
The Gunners of London are gunning for victory in their own backyard when they tackle Nottingham Forest.
He's done well, Martinelli, chance for Arsenal here, Martinelli scores!
But the Tricky Trees refuse to remove their foot off the pedal as they navigate a way to the top 5.
And headed in! It's a goal for Forest, and it's Murillo!
This is the Premier League. Catch the incredible encounter between Arsenal FC and Nottingham Forest FC on Saturday, 23 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Imagine a South Africa where every child born today and tomorrow and the next day and the next had enough love, enough food, enough safety and brain power today and tomorrow and the next day and the next. Together, we will change their future. Join us by visiting
holdmyhand.org.za. That's holdmyhand.org.za.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
So just by way of a reminder, Eskom has made it easy for you to recode your meter. Customers must remember to recode their meters by the 24th of November. So you just got a few more days. All Eskom customers are reminded to recode your prepaid meters before the 24th. If your meter is not recoded, it will not accept legally bought prepaid electricity tokens. Eskom has made this process easy for you, though. They've pre-coded all meters, and they are ready for you to now recode your meter yourself. And to do this, all you have to do is pop into any Eskom approved electricity outlet and buy an electricity credit token, and their teams are standing by to help you.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we're catching up now with Zachary Oster, who is the co-owner of Totem Bags. So in South Africa, school bags are increasingly being recognized as a source of serious health concerns for children. With heavy loads, poorly designed backpacks, and improper carrying habits, schoolgoers are facing long-term posture problems, including back pain and a whole host of other things. And to join me now to talk about all of this is Zachary. How are you doing this afternoon?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Weirdly enough, as we get into this conversation, I remember being in school, particularly in grade 8 and grade 9, and having the biggest backpack. This thing was huge, with every kind of textbook known to mankind and Lever Archfile. And I remember my mom and my aunts, a lot of them being educators at the time, being very concerned about the size and the heaviness of my backpack at the time. Let's talk about the sort of the health risks of these improper school bags.
Yeah, correct. I think I've got a similar memory of about 1,000 years ago when I was at school, and I don't think things have really changed. We see it quite important to have a supportive backpack for carrying heavy loads. A heavy bag without any built-in support forces the body into poor posture, and that can lead to strain on the spine, as well as stress on joints in the hips, knees, and ankles, and that all sort of increases the risks of pain and injuries over time.
And let's talk about as well, sort of carrying these poorly designed bags or excessively heavy bags. How does that actually affect, just the physical posture, the overall spine health, perhaps even just the strain on the muscle? We were just having a conversation earlier on around osteoporosis, for instance. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, correct. So we've done a lot of work to have the bag endorsed by the South African Society of Physiotherapists. We've had professionals work with us to ensure that we're offering a product that helps alleviate some of these risks. Mostly it manifests in poor posture. So you see kids with the rounded shoulders, a contracted chest, and a head that leans forward. All this, combines to put pressure on the spine and other joints in the body. And over time, for young kids that are growing and are at a sensitive age, this can lead to ramifications further down the line.
Let's also explore, with your guys' totem bags, what kind of sort of consideration or maybe features have gone into your bags that make it a lot better for children to utilize as a school tool?
Yeah, so our ergonomic bags typically include an internal aluminium frame. This helps to absorb and evenly distribute the weight. We also have high-density foam padding, which provides extra cushioning, and adjustable shoulder straps that allow for custom fit to improve the comfort and balance across the child's back.
And by way of these features, are these features that parents should be looking out for? Because I mean, the standard sort of school backpack is not aluminium reinforced, for instance, like yours is.
Yeah, correct. It's not common, but we think it's an important selling feature, which talks to the health risks we've identified here, and we see it as an investment. It certainly isn't something that's commonly available, but we think, as you mentioned, with the amount of weight that kids are carrying relative to their own weight, how that weight is carried and how it's distributed on a small child makes a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, as you listen to our conversation as a mom and dad, I'd love to know just how heavy is your child's backpack? When was the last time you actually lifted it up and just felt what your kid is carrying to school? Or is it actually sufficiently sized for them and it's not giving you cause for concern? We've touched on this conversation around how some of these school backpacks are actually improper for the function that they're supposed to serve. And considering the fact that they carry a relatively heavy load, and most of them are poorly designed or improperly designed for the young physical body. I'd love to hear from you. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call me on, as my entire crew starts looking at themselves and reflecting back on how heavy their school backpacks were. You can see them actually arching over, trying to recreate their posture from back in their school days. Let's go to WhatsApp on 061-410-4107.
Hey, SAFM, I want to say that I also suffered like you with the whole bag shebang, and the approach with my daughter's school, they're not allowed to carry books and whatever. They only carry lunch boxes, and each and every chair where you sit in class, whichever teacher you go to, there is a bag that hangs there that keeps the material for that teacher. So you sit at the same chair and the material is always hanging behind you for each and every teacher. So they don't carry books and they just frown upon it. But it's a private school. I guess that's what we pay for all this stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Bongi, and clearly a proactive school as well, because I know there are some schools that have those sort of chair bags where you're supposed to keep your stationery and your books and things like that, but you still sort of cart your stuff, from class to class to class, and you still lug that bag with you every single day. But we'd love to hear from you. 061-410-4107. What is the status of your child's backpack, maybe compared to what your backpack was like when you were in school? A lot of us carried heavy bags to school, to and from school. But as you hear from Bongi, her child being in a far better position right now, where the school actually frowns upon them having any kind of heavy study material in their backpacks, and all that stuff seems to be left in school and you just take home what you need. Let's continue our conversation as well with Zachary, whose company Totem Bags is actually addressing this problem, because studies show that carrying more than 10 to 15% of a child's body weight can actually lead to chronic issues. And they've designed a bag that really just reinforces support for the function of a school backpack. Talk to us, Zachary, around, what are the best packing practices, if there are any? I'm sure you did some research as well when designing your bags. What are the best packing practices to ensure that the weight in a school bag, or the weight of a school bag, is evenly distributed and there's far less pressure perhaps on that fragile spine and that fragile back?
Yeah, so we've got a few simple tips. We think that placing the heavier items closer to the back of the bag, so they're adjacent to the child's back, reduces some of the leverage and maintains balance. To your caller's point, I mean, to the extent you can, you should only pack what's essential. I think people get into the habit of maybe packing too many, things in the bag to make it a little bit more convenient, but ultimately being a bit more militant about what goes in will help. And ideally, as a rule of thumb, try and keep the bag's weight to, sort of around 10% of the child's, 10 to 15% of the child's weight.
All right. Let's jump to Jabu in Pretoria. How are you, Jabu?
Hey, Bridget, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Can't complain. And yourself?
I'm well. Look, I've got 4 kids. They are small stature kids. My youngest and the smallest is going now to grade 8 next year. It means that the size of her back is going to enlarge.
Yeah.
She was using a caddy that she was pulling that did not affect her in any way. Back, like her other sisters, need to be big. For me, the issue of the back points to our schooling system. They are not creative around how they schedule themselves. For example, in the Premier Soccer League, if you've got 2 teams that use the same venue to play, they have a software that does not make them to play at home on the same weekends. Why can't our schooling system say on the same day that we are having life science, because they have a big textbook, on that day we are not going to have mathematics or physical science or accounting or whichever one, so that the scheduling of the school is such that the kids don't have to carry all the books that they need to carry every day, because if you have the same period every day, you can't leave a book behind. So it's a question of creativity, both in the schooling system, and obviously now you're talking to someone from Totem. Their backs are very strong, but they still allow you to carry heavy weights. In fact, they've built them so strong that you can put rocks in there, but that is exactly what we're talking about, which is not helpful.
I get you, Jabu. You almost lost me with that soccer analogy because, me and sports, as Tibani. But you brought me back. Thank you so much for the share. That was Jabu in Pretoria. And I get the point that he's making to say that perhaps in the schooling schedule, if you do know that the sciences, biology, science, mathematics, the textbooks are quite heavy, quite chunky, quite substantial, then on the day when your period plan is scheduled out, on those days, maybe you just have one of those subjects versus having 2, so that a child is only carrying one heavy textbook and then, 1 or 2 other light books for the other subjects versus carrying 3 heavy textbooks, and having to also add on the other things that go into a backpack. I also love the fact, Zachary, that, you got a compliment, but also a sort of cautionary warning from a parent to say, well, Totem's bags are really quite strong and they built quite sturdy and quite supportive, but that also might inevitably then mean that people are overpacking them, and really not feeling then the benefit of what the bag is essentially designed for.
Yeah, we'll take the compliment. I think we do limit the size of the bag. We have been asked many times to make bigger bags, but we typically decline to do that because of this exact risk. We worry that people will, ultimately, if you give people the space, they'll fill it. So the bags, they're fairly sizable as it is because kids just have, a lot of carrying requirements. But we do consider that and try and manage the absolute size. But yes, absolutely, all valid points. And I think it's about finding a combination of better structuring of what's the demand on kids having to take to school, and then what they do have to take, that they carry it in a bag that protects their young spines and backs.
Absolutely. We appreciate the conversation with you today. And it was also lovely to hear from parents and their perspective on this one. That was Zachary Oster, co-owner of Totem Bags, talking to us about the hidden dangers, perhaps, of school bags that are improperly designed and that are not protecting your child's posture and health. And this could lead to a whole host of things, of course. It could lead to long-term posture problems. symptoms, including back pain, spine misalignment, muscle strain, and of course we also heard around just the fragility of bones that are forever growing in our earlier conversation around osteoporosis. So maybe spend a little bit more time just interrogating what is in your child's backpack. I know there were a few moments growing up when my mom literally asked me, why is he heavy so? I think also just even as adults at times, we also have this culture of carrying everything. I picked up my partner's bag the other day. I nearly died. I think I nearly lost an arm because it was so heavy. It must have weighed 25 kgs. I wasn't quite sure because everything gets put into these bags: reading materials, laptops, headphones, stationery, pencil bags. You only use one pen to write and one pencil during the day. So why are you taking all 12 of your multicolored highlighters when you actually are not going to use them at all? You know what I mean? So maybe this weekend you just carve out some time to be with your children and go through that little exercise of just examining what is in the backpack and is it necessary or is it not necessary. It can be a bit time consuming on Sundays to do this, but it will be worthwhile in the long run. And that is how we wrap it up from our end today. We thank you so much for being in conversation with us, hoping that you walked away with a nugget or two during the many pieces of dialogue with all of our respective guests today. We will be here tomorrow. Ashraf is already here, standing by to bring you the National Pulse. I've got a frog in my throat now, but just on time. Inshallah, God willing, we do it again.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
When you did music, the one particular song that you remember very vividly, that blew and made you DJ Cleo, that we now all know as DJ Cleo, and who has such staying power. What song was it?
Time to say goodbye. Da-da-dee, da-da-da-da.
You have won quite a lot of awards. In 2012, for your single Facebook, you earned 3 awards at the 18th Summers.
Let's just say I have 14 summers in total.
Can I have one?
Maragari, you must release something.
By association.
That will be awarded.
Bertha Charuma.
Did you know, since its establishment